What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I am here with the one and only Jack Hammer. I asked him, it's been a while. I'm trying to get back into the groove of things, and Jack was more than happy to come on. So we took a little bit. We were having kind of a pretty interesting conversation off camera, and I'll keep it at that. It's all 49er related, though, I promise. So, Jack, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Good. How are you doing?
I'm trying to get back into the groove of things. I still get a little nervous, but I'm trying to get that feeling back. I'm trying to get the algorithm to like me again, because right now I'm not getting much action on the channel. So taking a break as much as I needed it mental health wise, and just kind of taking a break from YouTube because I was getting burned out, did a number on my following. So hopefully people start watching my channel again, but whatever. Anyways,
you'll get it. You'll get it. It's good to be back.
Thank you. It feels good, and I'm glad, like I said, you were able to come on, because there's certain people that I just like their opinion on, especially about what I'm about to ask you. A lot of people might not like what I have to say or what I'm going to ask very much, but I need to get into something that kind of was in not my crawl, but something that I was thinking about, but I would have been afraid to come off and say, because I'm going to come off as like maybe a hater. But I'm going to get right into it. What has been, if you had to be fair, what was your assessment of the first game of Lance this year, playing in the slop in the rain? Because I had some opinions about things that I felt, but I wanted to get yours first, and then I'm going to bounce it off and see if we kind of are on the same wavelength.
I thought he played okay. It was one of those, it was. I feel like Trey Lance's performance in Week 1 is pretty much the same as what we saw last year when he played. Pretty much we saw him all throughout preseason and training camp, and there was some really good stuff, and then there was some bad stuff. There's this, and there's it's up and down, and that's what I saw. I thought he had some really, really nice throws. I mean, the throw to Ayuk, the throw to Ray McCloud, the deep ball to Jauan Jennings. Those are like the highlight throws. And then on top of that, you have the miss to Tyler Kroft that just can't be a miss. You have the not throwing the ball to Jauan Jennings in the red zone that turns into a sack that keeps you out of the end zone. And there were some other little things that he struggles with in terms of pocket movement and accuracy. And I think he understands that. It sounded like he does when he spoke to the media today. And I think that if you're looking at an honest assessment of him, he played okay. He didn't play bad. He's not the reason the 49ers lost by any means, but he also was part of the reason why they didn't win.
There's always, it's with me, and you talked about this with Jesse Naylor, and I'll bring it up. You were talking about how, in his starts, the points haven't been a lot to come by. They've struggled a little bit. Mm-hmm. One thing I noticed, that I noticed in the game against the Texans last year, and I know people are going to kill me for this, but the one thing Jimmy Garoppolo, for the most part, did when he wasn't throwing interceptions to linebackers is the Niners had a little bit of an offensive rhythm as far as how they moved down the field. When Jimmy would get a little bit, I guess, on fire, so to speak, and they were kind of able to move the ball, and they'd have those nice scoring drives where they mixed the run and the pass in, and it was real even and nice to look at. With Lance, I must say, and this is and I am a Lance guy, guys, so everybody relax. It's a little herky-jerky. It's uneven. It's not always a rhythm. You know what I mean? There's big throws followed up by something that has you scratching your head. You know what I mean? And I know it's hard for me to balance the weather mixed with inexperience, mixed with my high expectations of things, because, me, you, and a lot of other older guys, we've played through some great quarterbacks, so we have a little bit of an unrealistic expectation of what we think a quarterback's supposed to be. So I don't know. Am I off center here for being, I guess, semi-critical and maybe thinking that the Niners offense, at least for now, is a little bit herky-jerky when he's in there?
No, I think you're 100% right. I think, and I don't think it's just Lance. I think it's happening with Lance, and I'm not sure if it's because of what Lance is doing totally, and if just the other players having to kind of get into a rhythm with him, or if it's because the play calling is a little bit different in the way that they attack the defense, like, taking some chances on third downs and things like that, or fourth down, and whatever, because that's part of the reason why they didn't score more points against Arizona. It's part of the reason why they didn't score more points against Houston is they didn't go for it. They didn't kick field goals at times when they had chances. They went for it on fourth down instead, and it didn't work out. There's just something that's missing, and it's there's lots of, when you look at his 3 starts, it seems like those starts all kind of coincide with a number of penalties that tend to pull him back, and they kind of take steps forward, they take steps back, and on Sunday that game should have been 24-0 after the first possession of the second half, and instead it's 10-0, and you just left everybody in the game. You left the Bears in the game to come back and beat you.
Alex kind of has kind of on the path of where I was going with my mind, but he says Lance just needs to build chemistry and get used to the speed of the game. That's it. His decision, making it great. I feel like Kyle needs to get used to him. I feel like there's not a great chemistry between the two of them right now. I think Kyle, say what you want about Jimmy's limitations and his physical limitations, his mental limitations. He knew Jimmy's strengths. He knew what Jimmy couldn't do. He would hide a lot of Jimmy's deficiencies as best he could most of the time, unless they were in a playoff game and they kind of needed a throw, and then kind of those things kind of shined those deficiencies. But I feel like he's not there with Lance. I feel like there's a disconnect, and I think it's going to take him some time. I'll be honest with you, and this is my honest opinion. I was talking to a Cowboys fan who I've known since high school. We used to mess with each other. He was a Cowboys fan, Niners fan, and it was like we've known each other since we were like 14 or 15. I said, you know what, dude? I wouldn't be surprised, and I mean this in sincerity, if the Niners kind of took like a step back this year and didn't maybe accomplish the goals that they thought that they were going to, just because I feel like where the rest of the team is there in a lot of ways, I feel like he needs the reps, and it might come at the cost of us achieving what we think we're going to get. And that's not a knock on him. I just think that's just, you have all the other rookies that played last year. You have your Trevor Lawrences, you have Zach Wilson, you have, I know his name, Justin Fields. Justin Fields didn't look great, by the way, anyways, in that game, but that's another thing. So I just think he's behind, he hasn't played. And that's pretty much his biggest enemy right now is the fact that he just hasn't played. And a lot of those other guys have. Not saying those other guys are going to be better or that they're better right now, but he's on this like fast moving train of like really good talented players and a deep team, at least right now, where the injuries kill us. And I feel like he, in a way, he's not really a detriment, but he's definitely the one piece that's kind of like, you know what I mean? You're not sure about yet.
Yeah, I would say when it comes to Lance and Shanahan, that's how I felt watching the game last year when they played against Houston.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like it was taking,
me too.
Like Shanahan was calling plays that should have been there, and Lance wasn't hitting them, and so Shanahan at that point was kind of like reeled it back in and said, okay, we're going to back off you for a series here. And then they kind of went back at it, and it didn't really work, and they kind of pulled it back, and then they finally got it rolling at the end of the first half. I didn't get that sense against the Bears. I felt like they had a really good plan, and everything that Shanahan dialed up is stuff that Lance is really good at, especially early on. The leak throw to the tight end. That's a play that if you go back and you watch Trey Lance at North Dakota State. I put up a video on my channel last year, and it's not very good because my video quality with where I was at the time, it's kind of blurry, but you can kind of get the point. Is it was all the plays that Trey Lance ran at North Dakota State that the 49ers run. The leak play, the over route. The over route is what you saw him hit Ayuk on before the miss on the leak throw. And you saw him hit McLeod on that one. The screens, which, the quick screens, which are okay. It was pretty much, even the jet sweep that they ran to start the game to the first throw, the second play of the game to Deebo Samuel was a play that you saw him run at North Dakota State. So I felt like Shanahan had a really good plan, and I just feel like the quarterback just missed the throws. And on top of that, with Lance, I mentioned it yesterday morning with a clip of the offensive line, and I mentioned how he moves too suddenly. He jumps into places instead of just sliding from left to right. He's jumping up into spots, and he's putting himself in a worse position. And because of the way he's moving, he's getting taking himself out like of a throwing position and stuff like that. And Greg Cosell, who, you know, you can say what you want about him, but, you know, he has a much bigger platform than I do, working at ESPN and NFL Films. He was on KNBR radio later in the afternoon, and he said the same thing, that he notices the same thing with Trey Lance. And it helps. It's a double-edged sword, because it helps the offensive line out at times because he's fast and he's able to move, which is a bonus. It hurts the offense at times because he jumps himself into spots that aren't right. And I will say they worked on it today at practice. That's for sure.
Yeah, it sucks because, like, we all say we want to be patient, and we all say that we know that the growing pains are coming. But I think both of us, at least me and you, and maybe not on purpose, we kind of want it to be there already. We want, because we see how good this team is, and so like the seeing the forest through the trees, we don't have the patience for that. Even though we know, and we all said that it was going to be a process, when it actually comes to it and we're watching games and we think the 49ers have this really good roster, we almost are like, you know, like we know it's going to take time, but like we're not, maybe in the back of our mind, we don't have the patience to wait. I definitely don't, even though I know I'm going to have to. That's why if my expectations, and I know this sounds really weird and kind of like, you know, after one game, I'm kind of saying this, but I definitely think there's you need to kind of reevaluate expectations this year, just because he's an unknown. We don't know much about him. So
let's see what happens this week, right? Because the weather conditions in Chicago were tough.
It might rain again.
I know, right? But apparently, from what I heard, it's supposed to only rain in the morning. It'll be gone, well before the game. But if it's a nicer conditions, let's see what he can do without it being in the rain. And maybe he's going to come out and he's going to blow it away. And everything that we talked about right now is going to be null and void, and it's all we can tee it up because of the rain. I think he's still, during his best portion of the game, he was still 500, 50%.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Before that, after the scoring drive, when they scored their final points of the game to go up 10-0, he was at that point 7 of 12, which is 57%. So, he is who he is, and
it's true.
All I'm going to say is I've been putting out the training camp stats, and people have been telling me how irrelevant they are, and I keep pushing back and saying it's what we're seeing in practice, or what we've seen in practice, is what we saw him do in the preseason games, and it's what saw him do now in week 1. Now, it can change. He's going to grow. He's going to learn. It's going to be a process. And maybe that process accelerates this week when the weather's not as bad, and we'll find out.
Steve Supremo asked you, "Where's your headset?"
I forgot it at home. I'm not in my. I've recently moved. I'm back in the place that I moved from because I have internet and that I can do here, and otherwise I wouldn't be able to do it with Aaron. So I stopped in here today, and I've got to be out here at the end of the month, so it worked out perfect for Aaron and I. So no headset today. I'm not a helicopter pilot today.
I actually like it. It's got a little bit of an ASMR thing going, so I always like the sound, the crinkly, crackly. Steve Supremo, you asked how slow was Hufanga. I haven't gotten to him yet. You need to go watch the game because he looked really good, actually. At least from my perspective. I know the All-22 always has a way of answering a lot more questions, but from what I saw in that game, damn, for all the bad and negative and the penalties and stuff, he was nice. It was nice to watch for sure.
Yes, for sure.
I figure we jump off of that subject because a lot of people are probably going to get really mad. I wanted to hit the Elijah Mitchell situation now with him being out 8 weeks. Massive blow. Mm-hmm. Not surprised because the guy has a propensity to get hurt. I just didn't think it would happen in the first game within the first couple of quarters. Uh-huh. Niners also recently signed Marlon Mack. Do you have any idea, or do you have a particular set of guys you think you'd like to see maybe get the rock, or is it going to be a meritocracy like Kyle said and ride the hot hand kind of deal?
I want to see Jordan Mason, what he can do. I think they kind of need that.
Me too.
But Kyle Shanahan said something on Monday that caught my ear. I put it in an article today because they went out and they signed Marlon Mack, And he made a comment about how the younger guys, meaning Mason and Davis Price, need to be better without the ball in their hands. And he was asked about that today. He clarified it and said pretty much everything other than running, lining up and all that kind of stuff. But I also think it has a lot to do with their pass protection. And I think that's why you go out and you bring in a Marlon Mack. I don't know why you would do it otherwise. I mean, I guess you bring him in to have him sit on I don't know why Marlon Mack would sign here to sit on your practice squad and not be active on game day. So I think you're going to see him take one of those rookie spots when it comes to the game on Sunday.
I wouldn't mind seeing him. I mean, he's a proven NFL back, and he's had, a buttload of injury issues through his career. But, I mean, that fits right in with the 49ers, unfortunately. MN says, guys, what other quarterback from Lance's class do this week? Huh?
I don't care what any of their quarterbacks do. I cover the 49ers, and so I talk about Trey Lance as an NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
If it makes you feel better that the other quarterbacks that were in his rookie class played worse, then okay. I will say this: he got beat by a quarterback that was in his class, and I would say
unfortunately,
Trey Lance was the better quarterback in terms of throwing, but the better quarterback in terms of moving his team down the field and taking advantage of opportunities was Justin Fields, and that's why the Bears won.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I hated to admit it when I was watching the game. I'm like, damn, dude. And the fact that it went to Dante Pettis was the talk about adding salt into a wound, man. Like, really, that guy and freaking Catman, but whatever.
Yeah.
You can't hate. I mean, they did what they had to do. You're right. He was moving his legs. One thing I noticed that I don't know if you noticed is that, man, the Niners still seem to have an issue with quarterbacks that can move. I don't care who the defensive coordinator is. I don't care who the defensive line coach is. Still an issue. They still, I don't know what it is, man. Like, every so often they seem like they figure it out. Like, there was games last year where I thought they played a lot better against Kyler Murray. And then this game happened, and I was just like, here we go again. Over pursuing, taking weird angles to guys, not bringing them down. Of course, any play that lasts as long as that play lasted is going to possibly, because guys just get open after a while. It becomes backyard football, and that's exactly what I thought that was. So,
yeah. Well, let me talk about this, because I have, Eamon Riles and the thing. He says it was a broken play. Alex says that's not true, Jack. Trey was better at moving the ball, take away the 5 penalties for first downs, and the Bears were 5 of 15 on third down. Okay. This guy says second half defense and those penalties is why we lost. Okay. I'm going to say this. The reason that the defense had one of the reasons that the defense had a lot of penalties is because the opposing quarterback was a threat with his legs, and he was a threat that everybody on the defense was worried about. And that's why you had the touchdown to Pettis, because if Justin Fields isn't the threat that he is when he breaks contain, I feel pretty confident that Talanoa Hufanga doesn't sprint across the field to try to get him. I also feel pretty confident that you don't have the personal foul penalties on the linebackers for hitting him just before he slides on the ground. It's a penalty. It doesn't show up in the stat sheet, but that's a play that he used that was effective, and it sucks for the 49ers, but and then he stresses out the defense. And I'm sitting in the press box, and I can hear the people around me who are very familiar with the team but aren't writers. Let's just put it that way. I could hear them groaning every time Justin Fields started to move.
Mm-hmm.
And if those guys are acting that way, then you know that it's happening on the field. And it started at the end of the first half. It started on the Bears' final possession of the first half. He on that possession, he started the move. They started it off with a bootleg that he took for 12 yards. And then they moved it down the field. And on that possession, he gained at one point 26 yards on that possession. He got the Bears all the way down into field goal range. The only reason they didn't kick the field goal was because their punter brought a towel out on the field to wipe it down. Otherwise, they would have been kicking a field goal, and it might have been a 7-3 game at halftime. That translated into the second half, and what was happening in the second half. That continued on. He gained confidence, and he gained confidence because the 49ers didn't put him away. And they let him hang around. And this is what happens. You let teams hang around. a playmaker makes one play. Now it's 7-3. And the playmaker gets back on the field. He gets hit, one time. Actually, he started off the second touchdown drive with a ball on a wheel route down the right sideline for 22 yards. That was the opener.
Wasn't that on Womack?
It wasn't on Womack. I thought it was live on Womack, but when I watched the film, to me, it looked like it was on Charvarius Ward. They were in cover 3. They were in their nickel, but in that look, Womack's got to cover the flat, and it hooked a curl. It's curl the flat is what it is. And so once that guy gets behind him, there's really no way for him to know because he's reading the flat unless he turns and runs, which isn't what he's supposed to do. Ward's eyes get turned around and he goes too far inside. And then he sees the ball go and you see him turn around and come back. And they got lucky on that one because it was a poorly thrown ball, but at least he put it on the man enough for it to be a completion. And, that drive moves along and they get into the fourth quarter and then you get the 3rd and 1 and Alshire hits him as he's sliding down and all that kind of stuff. And then you get into it pushes them down and they get to the 18 and they know what the 49ers are going to do. It looks like because they run, they motion into a tight formation. And at that point, everybody on the defense, they're in man coverage and they lose track of who they're supposed to go to. And there's 4 receivers on the play, or 5, I think there might have been. I don't know. What I do know is that there's 2 Bears wide open. The guy who he threw the ball to and the guy that's running across the field.
Yep.
Meanwhile, there's 4 49ers covering 2 other receivers. And
they bid hard on that run though. Their whole defense just was like a magnet. When he started scrambling, it was amazing how many of those guys just assignment wise just completely screwed themselves. And you knew it was going to happen eventually. When I saw him roll and had that much time rolling to his left, throwing back to his right, I'm like, oh God. And sure enough, the guy's wide open.
And the touchdown to Pettis, if that's I know that the focus is on the secondary and the blown coverage. That blown play starts with Eric Armstead. The defensive line, Eric Armstead and Nick Bosa run a twist on the right side of the 49ers defense. Bosa inside and Armstead loops around to the outside. He's out there, but he's not able to keep contained. Fields gets outside, throws the ball back across the field, and you get a touchdown. I feel bad for Armstead, but that just happens a lot.
Do the Niners need to widen their splits when they rush on 3rd down, maybe to avoid stuff like that? Or if they do that, would the defense audible to something to kind of counteract that? Because I feel like sometimes I know that the wide 9's really wide, but I don't know. It just seems like you said, there's always that contain break, and it seems to happen either to Bosa or Armstead on a consistent basis. I've watched a lot of 49er games because I have the Sunday ticket, even though I live here in Rochester, New York. And God, I can't count how many times you're like screaming, like, again, it happened again.
It happened to Ebicom, I think, on 1-2. I'd have to go back and double check on the film, but I think it was Ebicom. It was on that drive that I was talking about at the end of the first half. There was one where he rolls to his left and stops and takes off up the field, and that was closer to when they were going to kick the field goals. I don't know. It was Fields again. His number,
I think it was 8-7. He was 8-17, but he had 2 touchdowns and a pick.
Yeah,
and those 2 touchdowns were crucial.
Yes, and his legs caused a lot of problems. Not even
they do.
It wasn't even just a touchdown throw. There was one 3rd down play on a touchdown drive. I don't remember which touchdown drive it was, but he breaks contain, rolls to his right. He gets tackled after a gain of 4, but because so it's short of the line to gain. But because he's broken contain, everything kind of falls apart at that point. Charvarius Ward holds on to his receiver, and they get called for holding in the back. In the secondary, saw that first down. So it's just the impact that Justin Fields had on this game doesn't show up in the stat sheet. It doesn't look good from a quarterbacking perspective. I mean, I know that the guy in Baltimore, what's his name?
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson. I know that he was an MVP, but when I watch Lamar Jackson play, I don't see a guy that's a great quarterback. I see a guy that can throw the ball really well at times, but is a great athlete and just stresses the hell out of a defense.
Yes, he does.
That's what Justin Fields did on Sunday to the 49ers. And I'm not a big believer in Lamar Jackson either. I mean, we know that he hasn't won any games in the playoffs, and you can give me all kinds of reasons as to why, but I'm just not a big believer in that type of quarterback to be able to get you to a Super Bowl. They're going to win you some games. They're going to do some stuff, but I don't know about getting you to a Super Bowl. So yeah, it's interesting. And real quick, I'm going to hit it. I'm running your show today.
Fine with me.
I'm giving you.
One of the guys says your stuff. But he says, and Lance is the truth. Listen, we're not arguing about Lance not being good. We're just, I have to fight against being a homer sometimes and be honest with my feelings and what I'm watching on the as a macho man used to say, the video scope. I gotta be honest with what I see. Yeah. One thing you made a good point of is when you let a team hang around. I won't spoil it for people who haven't watched. But on the latest Cobra Kai season, they were dealing with a crooked referee who was being paid off. And the girl who ends up winning in the end, they tell her, if we have to deal with this crooked person, make there be no doubt who the better person is. So if you're dealing with all, like people who say like the Super Bowl and the Chiefs and this and that, if the Niners... and Bosa got held. Listen, if the Niners would have done their job and scored the points they needed to score and all that other stuff, you wouldn't have to depend on the referee and their calls. Do your job to the best of your ability and not have to leave it to chance. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I haven't seen that episode of Cobra Kai, or I might have. I don't know. But what you just said sounds a lot like Remember the Titans. Remember the Titans when the refs are trying to screw them to help to help the other team win, so that they change the coach and all that kind of stuff. And he tells them to not knock it off, and he tells the players to go out there and don't give them another yard, leave no doubt. It's the way it is. I tweeted after the game. My dad always told me, you let a bad team hang around and you're going to lose. They're going to beat you because you let them hang around. They make one play, they believe in themselves, and everything changes. And we saw that happen on Sunday.
What's sad is I got lulled into a false sense of security watching the game. I was getting relaxed. I'm like, these Bears suck. Mm-hmm. And then I remember towards the end of the game, like, man, if I let myself go there, that means the players did too, because I feel like the players kind of shut it down for a bit. And I know that they don't do it intentionally. It's just something that happens with momentum. Momentum in sports is real. I don't care what anybody says. Momentum means everything. Look at the Bills.
And when you lose it, it's a son of a gun to get it back.
Yeah, look at the Bills when they beat the Houston Oilers in the '93 playoffs with the greatest comeback ever. Mm-hmm. Once that ball got rolling and they started scoring those points, Houston was beat. Yeah. They were beat. It was over with. Plus, it was in Buffalo, and that place was crazy. But they were notorious for blowing leads. I mean, they blew one to Montana the following year in the playoffs, where Montana, they came from behind and beat
That's right.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah, and then and of course the Chiefs go to the AFC Championship game and Montana gets knocked out.
Yeah, and Alex says Trey made 3 throws to put them in the Bear side of the field at one shot. Then shot themselves. Absolutely, I don't disagree with you. He made 3 absolutely nice throws, and it's funny. We asked Kyle Shanahan about that today in his press conference, and they asked him about the throw, specifically the throw to Ray McLeod, because of everybody getting so excited about how that ball went right over the top of the defender and kind of fit in that gap. And I don't think Kyle Shanahan's nearly as impressed as everybody else was. I don't think he's as impressed as I was, because he's like, yeah, it was the same throw that he made to Brandon Ayuk, the couple series before.
I think he just wants to see consistency and more than just a couple splash throws. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
You're right.
I got to ask you this question because it kind of goes in line with, letting a team stay in a game. Are the 49ers undisciplined?
Yes. They were on Sunday. It's just the undisciplined and they're a little over aggressive with their eyes when it comes to Justin Fields. A little undisciplined in terms of, the face mask on Dre Greenlaw. He's coming all the way from the other side of the field because he starts on the left, the play's on the right. He runs all the way around the pile, and ends up getting his hand on the face. That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. The play was pretty much over at that point. Yeah. there was little things all throughout, and I take the undisciplined is also Deebo Samuel's fumble in the red zone on the first possession.
Mm-hmm.
I even say undisciplined in terms of missed throws, like all the stuff. Everything about this game was there. I don't blame Kyle Shanahan's play calling. I blame if I'm gonna blame Kyle Shanahan, it's blaming him as the head coach for the undisciplined play of his team, but not his play calling. And I know a lot of people are upset about the play calling, but I don't think it was that at all.
Kyle, he has right now. He has the the reputation of a guy kind of like Andy Reid, who's unfortunately he has his lapses in big games. But you got to put it on the players too. Players need to make plays. Jimmy played horrendous at the end of that NFC Championship game. He played bad, and that game was winnable. Everybody says
the NFC Championship game. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, go ahead.
The NFC Championship game was very similar to the game that they just played. The 49ers had chances in the beginning of that game to put the Rams out of the game, to knock them out. And Jimmy Garoppolo overthrows the ball down the middle. Right? The first possession, the first third down of the game, he has George Kittle wide open down the middle of the field, and he airmails him. It's the same thing that we saw. I mean, I get it. He's a veteran. Lance is but in terms of
it still happened.
Yeah, but think of it in terms of just the game and the way that they had a chance in that NFC Championship game to blow it open, and they didn't do it, and they got into a dogfight, and then the defense fell apart. The guy drops an interception. You get a missed block on a run play by a wide receiver, and you had again in the third quarter in that red zone possession, the play before. I think it was the play before the sack. They run the ball to the left, and the guy that makes the tackle is number 6. It was 6 or 9. But anyway, the guy that's supposed to block him, the wide receiver. I mean, they're just so you watch the 49ers as closely as we do, and you watch it all the time, and you really study it, and you see the same mistakes pop up. Different guys, but similar mistakes. It's really kind of interesting. Even the interceptions from the quarterbacks, right? Remember, here it was last year. Jimmy Garoppolo can't read the safety when they rotate down. He can't locate the rotating safety and beat him. Remember? Guess what happened on that interception on Sunday?
Same thing.
They rotated into a robber. Lance stares him down, and then it's fine. His read was the right place to go, but it's looking, and what happens is he steps down. Lance stares right at him. He never takes his eyes off of the safety, so the safety doesn't move. And then as soon as Lance starts to do this, that safety takes off. And Lance is slow with Lance's motion isn't quick.
No, it's elongated as hell.
And he's able to pick it off. There was a play earlier in the game. It was a third down, and he throws a check down to. I'm sorry, I'm ripping on Trey Lance with this, getting into that, but just talking about the game. There was a third down play that he throws to the check down to Jeff Wilson, and he has Deebo Samuel is going to be open, should be open. But again, it's the interception. He's staring down the safety, and this one he stares right at the linebacker. The linebacker doesn't move because Trey Lance is staring at him. So that linebacker is not going to move because you're looking right at me. I'm going to wait till you move your head. If you move your head to the left, I'm going to move to that. I'm going to move that way. If you move it to your right, I'm going to move that way. And as soon as Trey Lance turns to throw the ball, you see him move, and you see the completion to the check down. If Lance hits his back step, just looks to the check down and then throws, if he moves him with his eyes, which you want him to do eventually as a veteran, as he learns it, he's probably going to do that better. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where it's like, we know that he's young, and so these things are there, and it's okay. Like, this is why I don't get why people don't why they want to coddle this thing so much. Say it like it is. And then when he comes out and he plays good, you can say, hey, remember how this was then? Look at how much he's better. Look how much better.
Look at Josh Allen. I was looking at some statistics, how the Bills were the 2 seasons. They were like 6-10, something, a losing record. And then the year after 13-3. Yeah. The Bills fans were coming apart at the seams, just like, if Lance takes a little bit of time to get right, 49er fans are going to come apart at the seams too. It's just natural of us for fans especially with a team like the Niners that's kind of set up to win now.
Yeah.
It's just we want the finished product. We say we're here for the long haul and the build up and the the growth, but at the same time, we really just want it to all be happening and be done right now, and just him already be a refined product. And it's just unfortunately that's not going to be the case. I want to say hi to Mariah real quick from 49er Faithfully. She's been one of my biggest supporters since I took my time off. I want to say thank you to Mariah. Same thing with Jamie Bryant. Thank you for a lot of you that have kind of checked up on me when I was out. Sorry if I scared anybody. I just needed to get away, the commercial when they says want to get away. That was me. I need to get away. So I'm glad I'm back though. And for everybody, we're not Trey Lance haters. We're just, I have to be honest with myself as a fan with what I see instead of coddling my own thoughts and just being like, well, I have to be honest, like, he could have done this better. And, like I got to do it. It's got to happen. When I was watching the game, I'm very critical. I'm a critical fan, super critical. So I get mad, and I'm like, come on, kid. Like, I get really upset at the kid, even though he's really only played like 3 games in the NFL. So, but hey, it is what it is. So
hey, I like Trey Lance. I want to see him do well. I think he's going to do. I want to see him do well. I believe that he's going to do well.
Yeah, exactly.
It might take us some. It might take him a while. I believe that he's going to get there, but I don't know. Right? I don't know that he's going to get there. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to tell you he is going to get there. I'm not going to tell you he's going to be a top 10 quarterback. He has the possibility of it, and we'll see. And like Texas Niner says, I'm not going to hate on that, but I'm not hating on that. I mean, that's
he's hating. We're just being real with how we feel.
Yeah,
I'm going to be objective because I know my boy Luke Luna was always big on, he not a Jimmy Garoppolo guy, and I appreciate the $2 super. He wasn't always so big on like jumping away from Jimmy and maybe staying with Trey Jimmy a little bit longer. He's probably losing his crap right now that I'm being critical of Trey Lance. Not critical, just I'm being objective. And he's probably like, really, Aaron, out of all people, he hated Jimmy. So there you go, Luke Luna. Thank you very much.
I am not in the camp that the 49ers win would have won on Sunday if it had been Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm not in that camp.
I don't think they would have won either. I think he would have played just the same. He plays horrible. I mean, it was a bad weather game. Let's be honest. But the Bears found a way to win, and Niners didn't. So, real quick, we kind of touched on this already, but I want to go back to it real quickly. Just are the Niners' defenses laps correctable? They're the lapses that they kind of had. Or are those more of just being overly aggressive? Is it a schematic thing to you, or is it just did the Niners just kind of blow their wad trying to get to the guy and then realize, oh crap, he's going to throw the ball?
I think the mistakes that they made are correctable. I'm also going to say Matt Eberflus, he has shut down Kyle Shanahan 3 times now.
I did not know that.
It was 10 points in 2017. It was 18 last year, 10 points this year. In the last 2 games, last year with Indianapolis and then this year with Chicago, the 49ers offense had the opportunities to make plays in the first half and then got completely shut down in the second half. We saw that take place in both Indianapolis and Chicago. And it just felt like at times the Bears knew what was coming. And I wish I was smart enough to just go with my gut, because I posted the interview. There were segments of the interview before the game on the Friday before the game with Eberflus where they were talking about different things. He was talking about Deebo Samuel, but one of the questions was about Trey Lance and how are you going to stop Trey Lance? And how, it's a young quarterback. What are you going to do? And I think they were trying to kind of like lead him down the road of we're going to give him a lot of pressure. But he kind of said that, but he's like, or you can just play, defense and make him beat you. And when he said that, in my head, I'm like, they're not going to blitz him. They're going to force him to play quarterback, and they're going to force him to make plays and move down the field. And that's what they did. They sat in zone, and they said, come get us. And he couldn't make the throws in the first half to beat him. And then they kind of changed some things around at halftime after they saw what the Niners were doing, and they shut him down. And shut the offense down, not just Lance, but off the offense as a whole as well. And it was both sides of the ball, offense and defense. The team that won the game made the better adjustments, and just the way it is.
It is just the way that it is sometimes. Out of a lot of the negative that we saw, let's talk about Talanoa Hufanga. I think he had 11 or 12 tackles, 9 solo. I think he had did he have a PBU and an interception? I forget the stat line, but
I know he had an interception. I don't know about a pass breakup.
Maybe he didn't have a pass. Maybe the statistician kind of confused the interception with a PBU. But were you as impressed? Are you a little more grounded in your approach in Talanoa Hufanga, or were you as? I was very impressed. I was critical of him last year, and I know maybe he still gets popped a couple times with his lack of coverage speed or whatever, but he looked pretty impressive. How'd you feel?
I thought that Hufanga played excellent in the first half. In the first half of that game, he was all over the field, making plays in the run game. At the line of scrimmage, he was. If you check out the live blog on at the Press Democrat, because I was talking about it as I was writing about it as the game was going on. He was making plays at the line of scrimmage, and then he gets the interception, which I think was his first of his career with the 49ers. He was just all over the field, and then the second half he played well for the most part, but then he also I think it was his responsibility on the touchdown to Pettis. I think that's a little bit more on him. I know people are blaming. I think people are blaming Greenlaw, but I think that was a little bit more on him. And he played a really good game for his third or fourth start of his career. I thought he played pretty good. A lot of positives and a few negatives, and very similar to Trey Lance.
Yeah, it's that whole game to me, it was a tale of two halves. I felt like the 49ers. I thought Trey Lance played reasonably well in the first half. I thought the defense played reasonably well in the first half, and I just felt the second half there was a little bit of. I felt like they came apart at the seams pretty much everywhere. Wherever you want to point the finger, you could point it at the offense, you could point it at the defense, you could point it at Trey Lance, receivers, everything. It was just a big crap sandwich in the second half for sure. So it'll be interesting to see against Seattle if they can right some wrongs. Like I'll probably get into it with Rob on Friday. I'll probably talk more about Seattle, but still, this game has a lot of bearing on my mind right now, because I just feel like the 49ers, I've seen this story before. I've seen them be up on a team and get beat by a team that they should have, beat the brakes off. Like the year that they lost to the Colts with Carson Wentz. It was just, I've seen this. Was it the Colts or Carson Wentz? I forget. But it was just a game that they should have won. And I feel like they beat themselves. And, my patience and my rope will be a lot longer for Trey right now. But, eventually as we get through the season and we start getting into games that we need to win and divisional and all that stuff, that rope's going to shorten for me. As much as I want to say I'm going to be understanding and patient, that tends to go away because I get stressed because I want to see the Niners win. And if the Niners start losing games at like a really huge clip because they're just not able to beat better teams, I'm going to be pissed off. So hopefully that doesn't happen. So we'll see. I'm going to be right back. I got to let my cat out. She won't stop me out. I'll be right back. For anybody in the chat, don't make fun of me.
I'm going to hijack Aaron's show while he's taking his cat outside. No, I'm kidding. Texas Niner, you need to stop arguing with you need to stop arguing over there. You're arguing with Marketing Pro. Stop it.
Yes, I am a cat guy.
Nice. That's all right. I like cats.
I just like them because they take care of their own bathroom and I don't have to go outside every couple of hours. So I guess we could jump right to the O-line. Brunskill had a setback. Big surprise. A 49er injured player has a setback. That sounds like something we've heard like a gazillion times before. And just overall, a lot of people were crapping on the line. I thought they played relatively poor, personally. I know that they had a high pressure rate. I think it was 35% of the quarterback was under pressure. I don't know if you've watched the All-22 or if you've gotten a chance to look at things and be a little bit more objective. Did they play as bad as I think they did, or Because I know Spencer Burford had a really good grade coming out of that game. But overall, I just think I thought McGlinchey played poorly. Overall, what was your kind of takeaway from the offensive line?
I think that they played better than people are saying. When I say people, I'm primarily talking about the fans. I think that when I watched the all 22, I felt like for the most part there was a couple obviously where they got beat, but Lance got sacked twice. First one was on McGlinchey. The second one was on Trey Lance. Trey Lance got to throw the ball. There were some pressures.
I noticed there's some hitches sometimes when he should be throwing the ball. He tends to hitch it. Yeah, and he tends to hitch it one extra time and kind of almost walk into sacks or shift into sacks with his movement in the pocket. You're right. It's very herky-jerky sometimes. And I was just like, okay. So like I said, I'm trying to be open-minded with this, but I noticed it too. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
He was asked about the throw to McLeod and, when he threw it, all that kind of stuff. And Lance even said, I hitched one too many times. The ball should have come out after the first hitch, and I hitched too many times. That ball should have been out to him sooner. I mean, here, and I thought the offensive line played okay. Like, I know that Burford didn't give up a pressure. I don't know about the guy in the middle. He was okay, but Banks, he only gave up 2. And I don't know exactly where they came, but there was one play, like the throw to Juwan Jennings that was behind him, where Banks gets beat with a quick inside move, but he recovers, he gets to his man, and he runs him past the quarterback, which is what you're taught to do.
Mm-hmm.
And Lance's movement puts him out of position. That's what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, I've noticed it.
There was another one in the game where it was kind of the second time when he gets beat, it's very similar. He gets beat to the inside. He runs the guy through the pocket. Lance just has to slide to his left, and he's got a deep shot to Deebo Samuel for a touchdown. But because he jumps forward again and doesn't just slide to his left, he takes him out of the. He jumps he jumps in when he doesn't have to. He just needs to slide a little bit. And there was somebody, I mentioned that yesterday, like I said, and there was somebody on Twitter who responded to me and said, "Yeah, here's Justin Herbert doing exactly what you're talking about." And you see Herbert just pressure in his face, and he slides, and it's dimes down the field. And Trey Lance will get there. He's young.
He is really,
I mean, that's all I can say. I mean, he's either going to get there or he's going to be a gigantic flop. And at this point, I'm not ready to say he's going to be a flop.
Yeah, I'm going to bring this name up, but I saw a certain. Actually, how about this? I saw a certain personality who covers the 49ers say to Kyle Shanahan that he thinks that there's a lot of unfair criticism. I know we keep going back to Lance, but it's fun to talk about, I guess. That there's a lot of undue criticism in only 3 games in, and that like people are kind of writing him off. Now, that I will agree with. There is some people in the media, not talking about guys on, you cover the 49ers or the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. You're on YouTube. There's other people who do the same thing. There is definitely people in the media who are just getting their kicks right now, just crushing this kid. And I think it's unfair. He's literally played 3 NFL games. That's it.
Yeah, I agree. Like Mike Martz, right? Like what Mike Martz.
He was totally fine with him like a week ago.
Well, he was. I don't think he was.
You think he was lying?
No. There was. Are you talking about where he said that Lance is ready to play, kind of thing? That comment? Yeah, but he wasn't saying. But what he was, I think that comment got taken out of context because I was listening. I know exactly what you're talking about because I watched that. I listened to that thing yesterday. I posted it up on my YouTube channel, and then I went back and I was like, I know that he said positive stuff about this guy just like a couple of weeks ago or just recently. Yes. And so I pulled it back up, and what it was, it was more like he's been in. It wasn't like I know this guy's ready to go. It was more like this guy's been there for a year, and it's enough time for him to be ready. If he's not ready at this point, then he's never going to be ready to take it over. It's more of that kind of thing that then he's ready to go, and I think he's going to do great. He never said like he's ready to go and he's going to. At least I didn't hear it that way, but maybe I'm hearing it wrong.
To everybody in the comments who's arguing about when they were a 49ers fan and how much knowledge they have. You guys, we're all a fan of the same team.
1980, buddy.
I was born in 79. I became a 49ers fan in 1989. Okay. You can be critical. You can love your team and also be critical. If you listen, if somebody put a camera in the room when me and my nephew watch games, you would swear that we weren't 49er fans because we on everybody. It don't even matter if dude, I probably say something about Lance. We want to win, man. My nephew's only seen the 2 losses in the Super Bowl. He's never saw the victories. So to him, anything less than a championship, he really doesn't care. Like he didn't even really overreact about the game on Sunday. I don't know if he's just maturing and he's just not trying to let sports get to him. I'm trying to be better with it. I try to stay away from YouTube for a bit, but the real me, the real Aaron, gets hot when he watches stuff, and I'm like, I got to get back to YouTube because I got to get it across to the people without coming across like I'm hating. You know what I mean? You have to be objective when you like your team. You cannot let emotions dictate how you come across or what you put out. There's people that write puff pieces that never like to criticize the 49ers, and then there's people that straight up rip them. Now, you got to find that happy medium. Listen, man, you guys want to know what real journalism where they don't give a damn? Just come to New York with the Yankees imploding right now. Okay. I live in upstate New York. You think the West Coast media is bad? You guys have no idea. They're bad over here. So, yeah, did I play Tech Mobile? Absolutely. I did.
You had to play if you played with that was what's his name, Bo Jackson on the Raiders.
Bo Jackson. I used to always have the 49ers, and I'd either throw touchdowns to John Taylor or Jerry Rice constantly. It was always like a deep seam or like a crosser or something. I usually ran the same play and they always worked.
I just gave the ball to Bo.
I guess we kind of worked our way back to this one. Real quick on Kyle. Mm-hmm. Is his coaching decisions and his way he goes about things, can he be critiqued? Is he critiquable? Do you see things sometimes? Do you think he gets cute? Because I watch games sometimes and I feel like he overthinks or he tries to be too cute with things, and sometimes he just needs to go like, I don't know who was saying it. And it might have been you. It might have been. I was watching a lot of shows the other day, so I forget who said it. But if you got something that's working, keep doing it. Stop. Like, I don't understand. Like, you go away from something in the second half that the defense couldn't stop in the first half. Why? What's your thinking? So, how do you feel about that?
No, I get it, but I don't think that was the case in this game. I think that if you looked at the game, the game plan was clearly that we're going to run the ball and we're going to take some shots off of play action, and that's how we're going to play this game. And that's exactly what they did the whole game, until they were down 13-10, and that's when they started to try to change, and they went away from running the ball to a little bit more pass heavy at that point. And again, I get blaming him, but he dialed up a touchdown on the second play of the second offensive possession. He dialed up the play to get him down into the 16, and you can't blame the play calling on the fumble from Samuel. You can't blame the play calling on the coach when the quarterback doesn't throw to an open receiver in the end zone on third and goal from the 4 and takes a sack instead. It's what happened with the running game. I think the reason why the running game went sideways was 2 things. One, Jeff Wilson Jr. didn't play very well.
No, he didn't.
He had to step in for Elijah Mitchell, and I didn't feel like he really played his best game. And, on top of that, I feel like if you watch the way that the Bears defense attacked the 49ers in the second half, they knew what was coming. There were times when the 49ers would get in. There was one play in particular that I highlighted on my film breakdown where the 49ers are in a shotgun. Deebo Samuel motions into the backfield, and And all three linebackers, well, two of the linebackers, I think it was two linebackers and a safety for the Bears, are all on the same side of the center. There's one guy at the center. There's a guy over like between the guard and tackle, and there's another guy just outside of him. And that's on top of the defensive lineman. So, and they're like, well, we're pretty sure that if Deebo Samuel gets the ball, this is where he's going. So we're going to put all of our guys over there. And if you don't give it to him, I think we can get Trey Lance over here with these two guys. And it worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lance couldn't make him pay, and the 49ers couldn't make them pay for the way they were playing defense.
Luke Luna made a good point. It's something I did notice. He said Deebo led the league in drop percentage last year, and he fumbled at least a couple of times last year as well. I'd like to see those stats change. You and me both, brother.
Again, Luke, I said this during the game. When Deebo Samuel fumbled the ball, one of the first things I said on the live blog was, Deebo Samuel fumbles the ball in the red zone, whatever. And it was in a rainy game, right, on Sunday. Go back to the game against Indianapolis last year in the rain at Levi's. The 49ers are nursing a lead late. Garoppolo hits him over the middle.
Deebo fumbles.
And he fumbles. They were up, I think, 13. I don't know, whatever the score was at that point. And Indianapolis scores to take the lead, and they never look back. It was, again, like we were talking about at the beginning of the show, just so many similarities between the mistakes they've made in the past and what we saw them do on Sunday.
Yeah,